Look, Fergie, you smell like a walking saloon. You want to get caught behind the wheel of a car like that? Or even out of a car? Besides, what if some of those cops come up here for coffee? Come on, get in.
He's talking sense, Fergie.
Yeah, I guess so.
Hello to all the classic people that are returning. I'm glad you're back. I want to welcome any new visitors. As a technical note, references and citations are listed for each show on the site at classicmovierev.com. Today on Classic Movie Rev, we are taking on the film noir, The Devil Thumbs a Ride, 1947. Before we get going, I want to remind you to follow the link in the show notes or from the site to visit our store at classicmovierev.com/go/TEE. The Devil Thumbs a Ride 1947 has a somewhat low 6.9 rating on imdb.com. On RottenTomatoes.com, it has no tomato meter score and only 39% audience approval. I know this movie is better than that. Steve O of Film Noir of the Week said, quote, "As the titular devil, Tierney pretty much knocks it out of the park, consistently displaying both a welcome restraint and a knack for sudden persona changes. Whenever law enforcement enters the picture, he tenses up and does something kinda great with those creepy, lifeless eyes. Like a cornered animal, he rapidly provides himself a stratagem for detection, avoidance, and escape," unquote. New York Times film critic Bosley Crothers fairly hated this movie with the following review on March 22, 1947. Quote, "Simply for the record, let it be noted that The Devil Thumbs a Ride is a distinctly pick-up affair. It tells how a fugitive criminal who hitches a ride with an innocent young man almost ruins that gentleman's reputation before the cops finally close in on him. In the role of the thug, Lawrence Tierney, who played Dillinger a couple of years back, behaves with the customary arrogance of all gunmen in cheap Hollywood films. It is pictures like this which give the movies a black eye and gives us a pain in the neck," unquote. I don't know, watching Lawrence Tierney act in this film is fantastic. As he jumps from persona to persona, it is thrilling to wonder when each fabrication will fall apart. Actors.
Right, and I'm a Shakespearean actor.
Lawrence Tierney, the great bad boy, played killer Steve Morgan. This actor was first covered in Born to Kill, 1947. Ted North played salesman Jimmy Fergie Ferguson. North was born in Kansas in 1916. His father operated a tent show. The young North got his first stage experience working in his father's shows. North graduated from the University of Kansas in 1939. He began his short film career in 1940. He was in several well-known films such as The Bride Wore Crutches 1940, Chad Hanna 1940, Roxy Hart 1942, The Oxbow Incident 1942, and film noirs The Devil Thumbs a Ride 1947 and The Unexpected 1947. In the 50s, North became a talent agent. He died in 1975 at the young age of 59. Nan Leslie played Carol Deming, aka Beulah Zorn. Nan was born in Los Angeles in 1926. She's known mostly for her roles in westerns during the 40s and 50s. Some of her films include Sunset Pass 1946, Western Heritage 1948, and Kings Row 1955. She died in 2000. Betty Lawford played Agnes Smith. Lawford was born in 1912 in England. She was a cousin of Rat Packer actor Peter Lawford. Lawford began her career on the stage, often performing Shakespeare. She began film work in 1929, and some of her better-known movies are The Return of Sherlock Holmes 1929, Berkeley Square 1933, The Monkey Paw 1933, and Criminal Lawyer 1937. She died in 1960. Story.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
A man is making a night deposit. If you haven't had the pleasure, you have to take a big bag of money and checks and find a drop on the side of the bank to put it in. I always felt I was about to be murdered every time I did it. Steve Morgan, Lawrence Tierney, stuffs a gun in the back of the man making the deposits and gives him unambiguous instructions to shut up and don't turn around. The man turns because he is worried about losing his job and screams for help. Steve shoots him in the back and leaves with the money. Steve waits by a stop sign until a car arrives. The driver, Jimmy Fergie Ferguson, Ted North, lets Steve in and is happy to have the company. Fergie is half in the bag as he's been drinking at a combo birthday and anniversary party.
How far you going?
Los Angeles, home sweet home. Right into the ever-loving arms of the sweetest little gal in the whole wide world.
Hey, what's the bride gonna say when you breeze in half stiff?
Not a thing. She knew the gang in San Diego was throwing a party for me.
His one goal is to get home to his wife, Diane Ferguson, Marion Carr. Steve checks out the gas situation and has Fergie pull into a gas station. When Steve sees a motorcycle cop, he starts to get cagey.
Wait a minute, a cop?
So what? I'm all right.
Yeah, but with that breath of yours and those hiccups, that cop comes sniffing around here, why? Better let me take the wheel. No use looking for trouble.
Maybe you're right.
The gas station attendant, Jack Kinney, Glenn Vernon, is helping the cop. Steve takes over the driving and sees that Fergie has a loaded wallet. When the cop leaves, Steve goes inside. Fergie calls home. Steve shows what kind of person he is when he is shown a picture of Jack's daughter. Steve says from the looks of her ears, the little girl will fly before she walks.
How old? 2 years. Boy, she's just at that age now where she's poking that little nose into everything.
Well, looks at those ears, she's gonna fly before she'll walk.
Ouch. It's kind of like when Darth Vader crushed that guy's throat. You know he's a bad guy. From the call, Fergie has the perfect wife, but not so much from the mother-in-law. The gas station has a police radio monitor. The story of the shooting is not out yet. Steve changes the radio to music. 2 women come running up to ask for a ride. The older woman is Agnes Smith, Betty Lawford, and she has bleached blonde hair. The younger woman is a brunette named Carol Demings, aka Beulah Zorn. Steve lets him in the car without asking Fergie. Steve has Agnes sit in the front with Fergie, and he sits in the back with Carol. Steve starts giving the, you should be an actress and I can help you bit. At the gas station, Jack hears about the shooting on the radio and calls in because Steve matches the description. Jack has called in a few criminals in the past. He heads to the police station to look at the mug books. The police are playing poker, but the police chief stops to call the surrounding towns to let them know about the shooting. The car with the 4 travelers reaches Oceanside. Steve starts drinking with Agnes. Diane nervously waits at home for Fergie to arrive. Jack identifies Steve from the mug books. Detective Owens, Harry Shannon, is assigned to the case, and Jack is allowed to tag along. Jack says he will split any reward with the detective. At San Clemente, Detective Mac Wilkins, Dick Elliott, is watching the road with his dog along for company. After Mac gets a radio call, he lets his dog out of the car. The dog runs into the road just as the car with the 4 travelers arrives. Fergie swerves at the last minute, saving the dog. Steve gets mad because Fergie almost wrecked the car saving a dog. Agnes spilled whiskey all over Fergie when he swerved. Mac calls the car in on the radio. Fergie is a traveling lingerie salesman, and Agnes tries to get free stockings from him. He says he won't give away free product, but his manager would. Fergie also says that his manager has a beach house in Newport. Steve perks up when he hears about the house. Steve wants to go to the house, but the others say they will try a roadside joint in Laguna. Jack and Detective Owens are barreling past Oceanside. Jack is shocked that the car has a 2-way radio.
When something gets hot, Martin will broadcast it.
Oh, I get it. Can you talk to him?
Yeah?
You mean it's a 2-way radio?
Yeah?
Now that's what I call real efficiency.
Thanks, son.
I'm proud I'm a taxpayer.
The 4 travelers arrive at the roadside joint in Laguna. Just beyond it is a roadblock manned by motorcycle cops. Steve sees the roadblock and orders everyone into the car. Steve takes the keys and says it's because Fergie smells like a brewery.
It's not the best food in the world, but the place is clean. Besides, it'll give me a chance to mop up a little.
Get back in that car, all of you.
What?
Give me those keys.
What's the big idea?
Look,
I still don't get it.
it's a police roadblock. They're checking all northbound cars.
What of it? We've got nothing to hide.
Look, Fergie, you smell like a walking saloon. You want to get caught behind the wheel of a car like that? Or even out of a car? Besides, what if some of those cops come up here for coffee? Come on, get in.
He's talking sense, Fergie.
Yeah, I guess so.
The cops see the gray convertible head back south, and one of them follows the car. Steve speeds away as the cop follows. Fergie wants Steve to stop, but he drives away faster. The cop shoots and hits the back window. Fergie threatens to slug Steve, and he stops. As the cop approaches, Steve rams him with the car, severely injuring the cop. Steve takes off again, but Fergie pulls the key and turns the car off, forcing him to stop. Fergie gets in the driver's seat, and Steve says he won't go back. He spins a yarn about being in reform school and hating cops.
What are you going to do?
There's a policeman lying back there on the highway. We're going to see how we can help.
Not me. If you go back there, you go alone.
You're coming along if I have to drag you.
Nobody's going to drag me anyplace. Look, Fergie, I told you I'd come clean, and I'm gonna. When I was a kid, my old man left my mother, my sister, and myself. We didn't have a dime. Hustling groceries, I got in a jam. They gave me 3 years in a reform school. I got to hate cops. But he wasn't hurt bad. You heard him shooting at us. Besides, there'll be a dozen squad cars there now.
We could go back without him, Mr. Ferguson. We can explain. They'll believe the 3 of us.
Oh, that'd be stupid. With cops seeing is believing and nothing else. Besides, Fergie, you smell like a saloon, and you're a married man. And with those dames, you wouldn't stand a chance either.
Steve says the smell of booze and a man traveling with 2 single women wouldn't look right to the cops. Steve says they should go to the beach house for the night, and he will turn himself into the police in the morning. They all agree to go to the house. At the Laguna station, they report that the run-over cop has a broken hip, and the theater man has died. They get word that the 4 travelers are in Santa Ana. Steve has Fergie back the car in so the bullet hole in the rear window is not showing towards the street. They use the hidden key to get inside the house. Agnes is really taken by the place. Carol goes to make coffee while Fergie calls home. While Fergie is on the phone, Agnes comes in and starts blackmailing him for a dozen pair of stockings. She turns on loud music and calls him Fergie darling.
Yeah, I got the garage man to bring me over here. It'd only take an hour or so to put in a new gadget, and the parts place opens at 7 in the morning.
Hey, Fergie, how about a dozen pair of stockings?
Get out of here.
Well, I'll make it easy on you. Half a dozen.
Yes? Go away.
So the answer's no, huh? You'll be sorry.
What, dear? I didn't hear the last thing you said.
Jimmy, isn't that a radio I hear?
The garage fella must have turned it on. Hey, buddy, will you turn that off? I'm on the telephone.
All right, Fergie, darling. I'll turn it off.
Don't tell me that was any garage man.
Diana's getting upset, and Fergie says he will tell her the truth. Outside, Steve is flattening 2 tires on the car using broken bottles. Carol tells Steve that her real name is Beulah Zorn, and she had youthful troubles just like Steve. A knock on the door comes, and Joe Braden, Andrew Tomes, the night watchman, arrives. Steve gets Joe the watchman to start drinking with them. Fergie finds out about the 2 flats, but he wants to leave and get home to his upset wife. Steve tears the phone cord loose in the bedroom. Joe gives Fergie a map showing where he can find a phone and hire a car. Fergie goes to the lady's house and uses the phone. Diane does not answer the phone. Steve gets Joe to drink a full glass of booze for a $10 bet. Carol sees that Steve is getting the guard drunk on purpose. At the Santa Ana police station, they have captured the wrong 4 people. The police captain says the net is closing around the criminals. Detective Owen sees the cops in the back are playing poker. He and Jack join the game. Jack is a real card mechanic and knows all the odds.
Come on, get with us, son.
It's only 51 cards here.
What? Don't give me that.
Yep, that's right, only 51. You fellas look around while I try and find out which one's missing.
That's a brand new deck. There's nothing wrong with it.
2 of spades. Huh, the kid's right. Here it is.
Well, no wonder I couldn't fill that flush.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Back at the house, Joe is drunk as a skunk. Steve puts him on the sofa. Over Carol's objections, Steve keeps pumping Joe with drinks. Fergie makes it to the car rental place, and it won't be available until 5 a.m. Agnes lays down in the bedroom. Steve takes Joe's gun away. Steve begins to rape Carol when the murder report comes out on the radio. A knock is heard at the door. Steve slaps her and tells her to keep quiet. Fergie says they need to clean up before leaving. Fergie roughs up Steve. Carol writes a warning note for Fergie and then starts vacuuming. She drops the note, but Fergie doesn't get it. Carol escapes out the door. The police poker game continues, and Jack says it's odd that Steve is a stick-up man and a forger as well.
Son, where did you learn your poker?
In school. It was a hobby of my math professor. He sort of taught me the percentages. 2.5 to 1 against improving a pair with a 3-card draw. 8 to 1 against making 3 of a kind or 2 pair. 8 to 1 against improving 3 of a kind with a 2-card draw. 5 to 1 against an open on both ends straight. 11 to 1 against filling a belly. 4 to 1 against making a flush. 46 to 1 against...
All right. How much is 2 and 2?
6.
Steve has followed Carol out, and he comes back to the beach house with scratches on his cheek. Fergie goes to look for Carol. Agnes warms up to Steve while they are alone. Fergie finds Carol's dead body in the water. He tries to pull her out, but he can't do it by himself. Fergie wakes Joe and tells them that Carol is dead. The drunken Joe is sent to get the sheriff. Steve plants the idea that Carol may have committed suicide.
Her name wasn't Carol Deming at all. You can look in her purse to find out her real name. Anyhow, she told me she'd run away from home to go to Hollywood. Her folks were trying to catch her, and she didn't have much money. She seemed to feel pretty badly about the whole thing. The point is, she may have slipped into that lagoon, and then again, she might have jumped.
Fergie and Steve go to get Carol's body, and Agnes realizes that Steve is a killer. The local police get a call requesting a coroner for the alleged suicide. Detective Owens is suspicious about the description of the group and decides to investigate. Owens asks for a bunch of police officers to follow in another car. Fergie goes to take a shower, and Agnes says she knows what Steve is, and she wants to know how to not end up like Carol.
Why did you have to give it to the kid?
What are you talking about?
Look, Steve, Carol doesn't mean anything to me. I just don't want to make the same mistake she made.
How'd you get wise?
Easy. The roadblock, the motor cop. Look, I've been on the lam myself, but you're terrific. And when you gave up with that reform school spiel, I almost busted out into hearts and flowers.
Steve says Carol was going to rat him out, and the killing was an accident. Agnes agrees to back up his story, and he initially gives her $100. Joe and the sheriff come into the beach house. Steve hides his gun in the bookcase. Right away, the sheriff thinks it might be a murder. Steve tries to make an excuse. The sheriff pulls his gun, and Joe searches all of them for weapons. Steve takes over the identity of Fergie. When Fergie objects, Steve knocks him out cold. At this point, the taxi driver arrives. Steve uses Fergie's ID and tells that the real Fergie is the hitchhiker. Joe, who is still drunk, confirms Steve's story and throws the spotlight on the real Fergie. Steve forges Fergie's signature as proof of who he is for the sheriff. Joe finds a gun in Fergie's clothes and is shocked when the sheriff identifies it as Joe's gun. The sheriff is letting Steve and Agnes leave when Diane arrives and is shocked to find her husband on the floor. Diane attacks Agnes, and Steve starts to make his getaway. Just then, Detective Owens and Jack come inside. Owens starts finding out who everyone is, and Steve grabs his own gun from the bookcase. He fires wildly and hits Jack. Steve tells Agnes to get all of the guns and the car keys. Steve and Agnes leave in a cop car. Owens tells the group that the cops are all around. In the car, Agnes says she has had enough and wants to get out at the first bus stop. The police coming in the second car see Steve and Agnes in the other police car. They start giving chase, and Steve runs for it. The cops shoot at the car with a Thompson machine gun. Steve is killed right away. Agnes is injured and held for questioning. Jack tells Detective Owens to keep the reward. He then says we will play poker again. Diane and Fergie head home. She lets him know that they're going to have a baby. He kisses her and they almost crash. I'll be back with conclusions and the world-famous short summary following a word from our sponsors. Summary. It's always good to add a few noir terms to your vocabulary. In the case of this film, a couple of terms were dropped during the poker game that were new to me. I went to the Dictionary of Gambling website to brush up on these new words. I picked out 6 terms to learn. The first poker term is all black, which means having a club or spade flush. All blue means the same thing. All purple is another name for a black suited flush. All pink and all red mean having a red suited flush. All green translates to any type of flush. World famous short summary. No riders, except blondes, brunettes, and killers. Hope you enjoyed today's show. You can find connections to social media and email on the site at classicmovierev.com or in the podcast show notes. Don't forget to follow the links in the show notes or from the site to visit our store. If you enjoyed this show, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you've already subscribed, you can tell a friend, colleague, or family member about the show or leave a review where you listen to podcasts. It really helps the show get found. If you want to comment, suggest a movie, or help out, contact me by email at jec@classicmovierev.com. Beware the Moors.